What a night in Indianapolis, the Big Ten Championship delivering an absolute thriller as your top-ranked Oregon Ducks outlasting number 3 Penn State 45-37, the final to clinch a Big Ten conference title and secure the number 1 seed in the college football play. I mean, it's still not official yet. They got to make the selections at 9 a.m., but I don't think anybody's making any stupid decisions. They secured the number 1 seed in the college football playoff. What is up? Jordon Shultz sitting in alongside with Will Ortner, breaking everything down about this exciting barn burner of a Big Ten championship game. Of course, Oregon 13-0 for the first time ever after Dylan Gabriel's 4-touchdown performance. Jordan James had some clutch runs, 2 touchdowns, and that effort, thankfully, was just enough to fend off that furious late rally from the Nittany Lions, and just a really, really back-and-forth game. Oregon still the only undefeated team in FBS. I'm going to revel in this good stuff to open up this Pacific Office Automation postgame scoreboard show, but darn it, Oregon had to fight tooth and nail to keep that perfect record alive in a game filled with big plays, a ton of drama, had me on the edge of my seat the entire game, and, of course, championship implications. We'll get to all of that. Of course, if you want to check in, you can on our YouTube channel. How's it going? We can see you there. 1080 AM, The Fan. Also on the Vancouver 4 text line, 503-8646-FAN. A ton of fans I know that are so excited about the Ducks moving on with the win, have a lot to say, and will react to what you all have to say. But, Will, we've got to break this down. It's one of the wildest title games I can remember in a long time. How are you feeling about this game that we just watched? I know we didn't expect it to be back and forth like that.
No, it ended up about where I thought. I thought it'd be somewhere in that 7-10 range, and I knew that the Ducks could win a variety of different ways.
Okay.
I felt like Penn State would win this game in one way, and that was by grinding it out and running the football. Now they were able to run the football, obviously, in this game, and aside from the 2 interceptions, Drew Aller, I thought he actually looked pretty good. Yeah. Andy Kotelnicki schemed up some stuff that really confused Oregon secondary. Like, I'm interested to hear what Anthony Newman has to say about it, because there were a lot of times where Tyler Warren was running by himself, Clifford was running by himself, Singleton on his receiving touchdown that he caught out of the backfield, he was all by himself. Yeah. So I felt like Penn State came out with a game plan that I didn't necessarily expect out of them, which was to, throw the ball through the air more. And honestly, it worked better than I thought for a little bit, because I went into this game saying Oregon can win a grind out game. Oregon can also win a shootout. I didn't think Penn State could win a shootout. And in the fourth quarter, if Drew Aller doesn't throw that interception on a very good play by Reed, but at the same time, like, if he doesn't throw that interception, Penn State is driving down to potentially tie that football game up.
Yeah.
So I feel a little bit vindicated, or at least that I can claim vindication, because I said they couldn't win a shootout and they didn't. But if you were to give me some truth serum, I wouldn't be saying that I wasn't sweating at all at any point.
You talk about sweating. I don't think I was really sweating much until the last 2 minutes as far as thinking Oregon was going to win the game. I just I've had this belief all season after seeing them win in multiple ways, win that shootout against Ohio State, that they would be able to get it done. I did put my money where my mouth was, bet a bunch of my betting account balance for Oregon to cover. That did happen. They covered the 3.5, so I'm excited. I know you're stoked, Will, that you said that they could win, and it was going to be a nice 7-10 point game. You predicted that correctly. Well, darn it, I'm stoked that I picked Oregon covering the spread, actually doubling that cover by 8. And yeah, you do though point out, unfortunately, big mistake by Drew Aller, a pick. And then, of course, later on in the game, really just both teams, you could see the exhaustion from both teams. I mean, Penn State having to call that timeout because Tyler Warren essentially looked like he was kind of just lumbering into the end zone when Drew Aller threw it over his head, and that forced Drew Aller to basically have to run, more than Oregon ever expected him to. But that, along with his own read, it kind of forced Oregon's hand a little bit. But oh my goodness, thank God for Oregon's offensive line and the offense's ability to get that that death knell drive at the end of the game. Because if they did not do that and they gave that ball back to Penn State, who the hell knows what would have happened?
Penn State had a very good offensive game.
Yes, they did.
Plan. What Kotelnicki had schemed up in the run game was very impressive, and we'll get into it. I want to talk a little bit with Dusty. Hopefully we'll be able to get him on the phone about what adjustments he noticed from Oregon in the second half defensively, because Singleton and Allen were able to run all over them early in the game, and it was all because of that inside zone and just what the Penn State offensive line was able to do, specifically to Derek Harmon, which is what shocked me. Like, when you think about the interior of this Oregon Ducks D line, like, they've been so good between Harmon and Cardwell, and this Penn State offensive line was able to reach them a lot of the game, and
Yeah.
that's what led to those big runs for Singleton and for Allen up the middle. Or if they didn't reach them, they completely washed them out of their gap, and that's where the big cutbacks came too. So I was really impressed with what Kotelnicki had, and then it reminded me a lot of Oregon when they had Herbert his senior year and they played Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl, where Mario finally said, "Hey, we're going to let you run the football. Like,
Yeah.
we don't care. There's no reason to save you. Just run the ball." It felt like Penn State did that with Aller, because what he was doing in the zone read game, he hasn't done all year. They didn't try that against Ohio State. They
No.
didn't try that when Minnesota got him into deep water. They didn't try that when Wisconsin got him into deep water. They'd bring in the Prebula kid every once in a
Yeah.
while, and they'd have him be a change of pace guy, or like they'd have Warren in the backfield. But after that early fumble, they really didn't go back to that much. And it was like, okay, Aller, like, you're going to be trusted to run. And then in the second half, Oregon had a good game plan for that zone read. And so then when it came to obvious passing situations, Aller realized they didn't have a spy on him, so he would just take off if everyone was covered. I was impressed for the most part with what he did in that game. He had a 50-50 ball that didn't go his way at the very end of the game on a shot play that you might not necessarily have to take, but I kind of understand why he did. He had a really bad first interception. That ball was behind the wide receiver. You can't put it behind the wide receiver. Otherwise, I actually feel like Penn State's offense had a much better game plan and executed at a much higher level than I would have thought going into this game.